anything that's learning from neuroscience and trying to apply a better or an updated model of neurons and cortical layers, I would call biological neural networks. I'm sure that there are more than just HTM, but HTM is obviously the one that I'm going to talk about a lot. And the main difference here is, remember when I told you in a point neuron there's an output and then there's a bunch of weights, and then it decides based on the state of all these weights and all these things it's connected to whether it's going to be active or not. A real neuron, if you want to get detailed here, a real neuron, let's say a pyramidal neuron in the brain, and here's this axon, or let's say this apical dendrites, okay? And then it's got all these dendrites going all over the place. Okay, lots and lots of them. I gotta fill it in. So the thing is, there's different receptivity zones here. If this neuron is stimulated in different places, it does different things. So if it gets stimulation on these synapses, on these apical dendrites, it might mean one thing, and signals get sent to the soma that indicate, in some cases, that something's going on there. If you get stimulation close to the cell body, this is proximal, this is apical, and then if you get stimulation close to the cell body, this causes the cell to fire right away. This is what causes the cell to fire. And for years, we didn't even know why these other dendrites were there. So all the rest that are way out, beyond some range, these are distal. And until recently, we really didn't know what they did or what the point was. The point is, anyway, in the HTM neuron model, and we think this is continually being backed up by experimental neuroscience research. We're constantly reading papers about this, and this is called an NDMA spike, okay? NDMA spike. If you want to look it up in the neuroscience literature, if one of these segments, distal segments, gets a whole bunch of activity on it, it will send a spike down the dendrite, okay, to the soma, but the soma won't fire. It will just increase its voltage enough so it's really close to firing. And we call this a predictive state. Then the cell is closer to firing than all of its neighbors. So when it does get proximal stimulus, it fires first because it's almost to the threshold of firing. This NDMA spike causes pyramidal neurons to go into this predictive state. The point neuron in deep learning networks and other the simple ANNs, don't have this at all. They've got, there is no predictive state. It's either on or off, and then, or you can have scalar or value associated with it. So the computation occurring here is at its core different. Like you can't take an deep learning network, right, and just install this, right? Because the deep learning architecture is dependent on the architecture of the perceptron or the point neuron. So you're changing the functionality of the point neuron itself. You have to change the architectures of all your networks in order to do that, and all the frameworks that are running them. So it's not easy to just swap and say, well, we'll just upgrade our deep learning networks to use the HTM neuron model. It just doesn't work.